The Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly had witnessed countless crises over the centuries, but none quite like this. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds sat in tense silence as the banners of the mighty Zorvath Empire unfurled across the chamber. Their fleets dominated entire sectors. Their armies had crushed civilizations, and their rulers had never once retreated from a threat. Today their target was humanity. At the center of the chamber stood High Commander Varix of the Zorvath Empire. His towering armored form radiated confidence as he addressed the assembly. Behind him floated a holographic map displaying dozens of human colonies. Every delegate knew what it meant. The Empire was preparing for war. The Terran Union has repeatedly refused our demands, Varix declared. They have expanded into disputed territories, ignored imperial authority, and challenged our rightful influence. Unless they surrender these worlds immediately, we will begin military operations within 72 standard hours. A wave of whispers swept through the hall. Many species lowered their eyes. They had seen what happened when the Zorvaths issued ultimatums. Entire governments had collapsed before the first shot was fired. No one expected humanity to respond differently. At the opposite side of the chamber sat Ambassador Daniel Hayes, Earth's representative. Unlike the armored commanders surrounding him, he wore a simple dark diplomatic uniform. His expression remained calm, as though he were attending a routine meeting, rather than listening to a declaration that could ignite a galactic war. The Speaker of the Assembly turned toward him. Ambassador Hayes, the Empire has presented its position. Does humanity have a response? Every eye in the chamber focused on the human. Hayes slowly rose from his seat. He adjusted his jacket, glanced briefly at the massive holographic fleet projections, and then looked directly at Commander Varix. The hall became so quiet that delegates could hear the hum of the station's life support systems. For several seconds, he said nothing, then he smiled. The reaction confused everyone. No ambassador facing annihilation should be smiling. Finally, Hayes spoke. His voice was calm, polite, and almost conversational. "Thank you for informing us." The chamber erupted into confusion. Delegates stared at one another. Some wondered if the human had misunderstood the threat. Even Varix looked momentarily surprised. Hayes continued before anyone could interrupt. "We appreciate the warning. It gives our civilian transports enough time to clear several trade routes and allows our logistics officers to update scheduling. Organization is important," the confusion deepened. The ambassador sounded as though he were discussing shipping delays rather than an interstellar conflict. Commander Varix narrowed his eyes. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum." Hayes nodded politely. "No, Commander. I understand perfectly." The human touched a small control pad. Instantly, the holographic display changed. The Imperial fleet projections vanished and were replaced by historical records. Ancient battles appeared across the chamber. Dates stretched back hundreds of years. Delegates watched as names of fallen empires filled the screen: the Kaldari Dominion, the Zenth Coalition, the Vorak Ascendancy, powers that had once seemed invincible, powers that no longer existed. "Galaxy has a fascinating habit," Hayes said softly. "Every few centuries, someone decides humanity has become inconvenient." A murmur spread through the audience. They arrive with larger fleets, bigger armies, and impressive speeches. They predict our surrender. They calculate probabilities. They estimate casualties. The holograms continued shifting. Then they discover something. Commander Varix folded his arms. "And what is that?" Hayes looked directly at him. "Humans do not measure wars the way empires do." The smile disappeared from his face. "When you calculate victory, you count ships. We count generations. When you calculate losses, you count planets. We count futures. And when you threaten us, you assume fear will guide our decisions." His gaze hardened. "History suggests otherwise." The chamber remained silent. Hayes activated another display. This time, thousands of human worlds appeared. Agricultural colonies, industrial systems, research stations, frontier settlements. Many were small, distant, and strategically insignificant. Yet together they formed an enormous network stretching across the stars. The Terran Union was not built by conquest, Hayes explained. It was built by people willing to cross impossible distances, survive impossible hardships, and begin again whenever circumstances demanded it. The image zoomed outward. Human space seemed far larger than many delegates had realized. If you destroy one colony, 10 more will rise. If you occupy a system, resistance will emerge before your ships finish landing. If you win a battle, humanity will prepare for the next 100. Several military observers exchanged nervous looks. Hayes wasn't boasting, he was stating facts. Commander Varix stepped forward. "Are you threatening the Empire?" The human ambassador shook his head. "No, I'm warning you." The words landed like a shockwave. For the first time, uncertainty appeared on the commander's face. Hayes folded his hands behind his back. "You believe war with humanity would demonstrate your strength. It would not. It would test your endurance. The question isn't whether you can start this war. The question is whether your empire can survive the consequences." The chamber's massive windows overlooked the stars. Beyond them lay thousands of inhabited worlds. Suddenly, the delegates imagined what a true conflict between the Zorvaths and humanity might look like, not a campaign, not a battle, a century-long struggle, consuming entire sectors. Hayes drew a slow breath. "Humanity has no desire for war. We prefer trade, cooperation, exploration. We would rather build than destroy." He paused. "But if forced to choose between surrender and survival, we have made that choice before." The hall remained frozen. No one doubted him. The confidence in his voice was not arrogance, it was experience. Commander Varix glanced at his advisors. For the first time since entering the chamber, he seemed unsure. The Empire had expected fear, outrage, or desperate negotiation. Instead, they had encountered certainty. Hayes offered one final statement. "If the Empire wishes for peace, humanity extends its hand." He extended his arm. "If the Empire wishes for war, humanity will endure that as well." The words hung in the air, simple, calm, unshaken, more terrifying than any threat. Minutes passed before anyone spoke. Finally, Commander Varix looked at the offered hand. The entire galaxy watched. The Empire had entered the chamber expecting submission. Instead, they had been forced to confront a possibility they had never considered, that the strongest weapon in the room was not a fleet, not an army, not an empire, but a species that refused to be intimidated. Slowly, the commander lowered his gaze, and for the first time in living memory, the Zorvath Empire requested further diplomatic discussions. The delegates erupted into stunned disbelief. No battle had been fought, no weapon had been fired. Yet somehow, a single human ambassador had accomplished what entire fleets never could. He had reminded the galaxy of a lesson history repeatedly taught, but few remembered. Humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, its soldiers, or its ships. It was the quiet certainty that no matter how powerful the enemy appeared, humans would never surrender their future to fear. The announcement sent shockwaves far beyond the assembly chamber. News networks across the galaxy interrupted their regular broadcasts to cover the unexpected outcome. Commentators struggled to explain how a conversation that had seemed destined to end in war had instead forced the mighty empire to reconsider. Within the Zorvath capital, military leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Many had expected celebrations and mobilization orders. Instead, they found themselves reviewing historical records that had long been ignored. For the first time in generations, imperial strategists were studying humanity not as a minor rival, but as a civilization capable of reshaping the future of the galaxy. Among those records were accounts of conflicts that most younger officers had never heard of. They discovered reports from empires that had once believed victory over humanity was guaranteed. Every document ended the same way: staggering costs, endless resistance, and outcomes far different from initial predictions. One elderly strategist, a veteran of numerous campaigns, quietly addressed the Imperial Council. "The human ambassador did not threaten us because he didn't need to. He understood something we forgot long ago. Power is not measured by how easily you begin a war, but by whether you can afford to finish it." Meanwhile, Ambassador Hayes returned to the Terran diplomatic compound. Journalists surrounded him, demanding explanations. Some wanted to know whether humanity had been bluffing. Others wondered if war was still inevitable. Hayes offered only a brief response. Peace remains our preferred outcome, but peace only survives when both sides understand the cost of destroying it. His words spread rapidly through human space. Colonists, traders, engineers, scientists, and soldiers watched the recordings. Many felt pride not because their ambassador had intimidated an empire, but because he had represented humanity exactly as they saw themselves, calm, resilient, and unwilling to bow to threats. Days later, a delegation from the empire arrived for negotiations. Their arrival alone was historic. The Zorvaths rarely negotiated after issuing an ultimatum. Entire generations of diplomats across the galaxy had never witnessed such a reversal. The negotiations began cautiously. Old grievances were discussed. Border disputes were reviewed. Trade disagreements were examined. Progress was slow, but something unexpected happened. Both sides listened. As talks continued, smaller nations watched closely. Many had spent decades trapped between larger powers. Now they saw a different path emerging, one where strength did not automatically lead to conflict. Several governments offered to mediate and support the negotiations. Weeks turned into months. The immediate threat of war faded, but the memory of the confrontation remained. Across countless worlds, citizens replayed the recording of Hayes' speech. What fascinated them most was not what he said. It was how he said it. There had been no anger, no insults, no boasts, only confidence. Many species found that more unsettling than any military parade. A young student on a distant world wrote a paper analyzing the encounter. Her conclusion eventually became famous across the galaxy. The Empire entered the chamber believing fear was power. The ambassador reminded them that courage is power too. Back on Earth, historians debated why humanity had developed such a mindset. Some pointed to centuries of wars and hardships. Others highlighted humanity's long history of exploration, adaptation, and survival. Regardless of the cause, most agreed on one fact: humanity had learned to endure. The negotiations eventually uncovered a deeper issue behind the conflict. The disputed territories contained ancient navigation routes that neither side fully understood. Rather than fight over them, joint exploration teams were proposed. The suggestion surprised everyone. Instead of sending warships, humanity suggested sending scientists. To the amazement of many delegates, the Empire agreed. The first joint expedition launched less than a year later. Human researchers worked alongside Zorvath engineers, mapping forgotten regions of space. Distrust remained, but cooperation slowly replaced hostility. During one mission, explorers discovered ruins belonging to a civilization older than any known galactic government. The finding transformed scientific understanding overnight. Suddenly, both powers realized how much knowledge could be gained through cooperation rather than conquest. As discoveries accumulated, public opinion shifted. Citizens throughout the Empire began questioning long-held assumptions about humanity. The humans they encountered were not reckless warmongers or stubborn rebels. They were builders, explorers, and problem-solvers. Likewise, humans learned that many ordinary Zorvaths had never wanted war in the first place. Years of political rivalry had created enemies where none truly existed. Personal interactions began breaking down centuries of suspicion. Several years later, Commander Verex and Ambassador Hayes met again before the Galactic Assembly. This time there were no ultimatums, no military projections, and no threats. Instead, they stood together to announce a joint exploration initiative spanning dozens of sectors. As the chamber applauded, Verex turned toward Hayes and spoke quietly enough that only nearby delegates heard. "I came here expecting your surrender," Hayes smiled. "And I came here expecting your threat." The commander shook his head and let out a rare laugh. "It appears we were both wrong." The assembly erupted into celebration as the agreement was signed. Yet many delegates knew the true significance of the moment. The treaty itself was important, but the lesson behind it was even greater. History would remember that a war between two great powers had been avoided not by superior weapons, overwhelming fleets, or political pressure. It had been prevented because one human ambassador remained calm when everyone expected fear. Generations later, students throughout the galaxy would study that day as a turning point. They would learn how an empire arrived prepared to intimidate, how a diplomat answered with quiet confidence, and how the future changed because neither side pulled the trigger. And whenever young leaders asked why the speech had become legendary, historians always gave the same answer: Because on the day an empire threatened war, humanity reminded the galaxy that true strength is not the ability to destroy your enemies. It is having the courage to seek a better future, while being fully prepared to defend it.